Hi, my name is Rachel, and today we're talking about a book that has its tentacles wrapped around I can't make this joke with a straight face. I'm so sorry. Hi, my name is Rachel, and today I'm talking to you about a romance of the tentacle persuasion called Nora's Kraken. This book was recommended to me by one of my best friends, Celine, who has a whole spreadsheet for me to pick from. And of course, I picked the one with tentacles because I am a sucker. Get it? Ha! Nora's Kraken by Lee Miller is the first in a monster romance / urban fantasy kind of. So it's kind of part monster romance, part urban fantasy. And this is in the Monster Relations Bureau series. So there's a whole bureau about what happens when the monster or, paranormal world in general, because there's a bunch of different things like fae and vampires. When it comes to light, that they have been living in the shadows and they're like, actually, we want to be able to integrate with human society, let you all know we're here. And that comes with some complications, like some of these people have to find out that they are the mate to a kraken, which is what happened to our girl Nora. Now, as you can imagine, Nora has some feelings about this, and personally, as someone who just ate calamari recently, I couldn't help but have a ton of feelings as well. But Nora might just find she has a taste for kraken. Oh man, I'm skirting the line here with YouTube. A taste for kraken, just like me with the calamari. You might also have a taste for kraken. And honestly, if you did, how easy would it be just to have a Monster Relations Bureau deliver unto you a delicious kraken man? Now, we don't have that in our world, unfortunately. But if you are looking for something delicious and easy just delivered to your doorstep, look no further than today's sponsor, Factor. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success. Skip the grocery stores, skip the prep work, skip cooking and cooking fatigue, which is what I have. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. My husband, Carlos, can vouch for the fact that Factor has come in clutch recently for us. We've been swamped over here. There's a beehive in my wall, and my kid just had a massive birthday party. Anyway, not having to cook has been relieving quite a bit of stress. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. You can choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart and Keto and Vegan or Veggie. As soon as we got our box, it was actually dinner time when the man delivered it to our doorstep. Carlos was able to try the pork chop and veggies, which he was super excited about and ended up loving. I tried the butter tofu with lentils, which was definitely a throwback to my vegan days. Both were so good. They really taste like home-cooked food. I was nervous to try anything with chicken breast because I'm really picky about chicken breast. If it's too dry and it sticks to my teeth, I get sensory overload. But this chicken breast with sun-dried tomato sauce and zucchini noodles actually tasted like home-cooked food. Carlos could have put this on a plate and told me that he cooked it himself, and I would have believed it. Because before this, he's the only person that will cook chicken breast that I will actually eat. But it's not just dinner. With Factor, you can also discover more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverages to help you stay fueled and feel good all day long. We've been drinking their juices in the morning. That pineapple one is a delight, and Carlos really likes the green juice. So what are you waiting for? Get started today and get your chef-prepared meals on the table in 2 minutes with Factor. Their ready-to-eat meals mean that you can have a stress-free dinner and more time to read more books about tentacles. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code RWR50. You'll get 50% off your first Factor order and 20% off your next 4 orders. That's code RWR50 at factor75.com. 50% off. What are you waiting for? Click that link below. And thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring today's video. This is dual POV, so we get POVs from both Nora and the Kraken man. Trigger warning for domestic abuse. It didn't really get physical, but it was domestic abuse nonetheless. It was between Nora and her ex. And also explicit on page, don't want to get demonetized. YouTube has been so strict on me lately. God, what am I living with my religious parents again? Chapter 1 is in Nora's POV. She is at the Monster Relations Bureau. Oh, Paranormal Citizens Relations Bureau, sorry. And she is being told that she has been recognized as a Kraken's mate. That's so hilarious. Can you imagine? I wish this would get adapted. I would watch the shit out of it. She's like, how did this even happen? She's like, this bureau did not even exist until a few years ago, until the government's passage of the Paranormal Act, allowing all sorts of different beings to come forward and join the mortal human world, which I love as a present. As a premise. As a present. It was a present. It was a gift. One day all those creatures were the stuff of myths and legends. The next day they were all too real. The Paranormal Citizens Relations Bureau oversaw it all. Something smoothing the way for paranormal folk to find their place in this brand new world. Some paranormals definitely look at orcs, winged fae, and naga among others. Some though move through the world indistinguishable from humans, shifters, vampires, nymphs, and demons. They have the choice whether they ever want to come forward and reveal who they are. So she's like, okay, how was I identified? It's like, no, recognized. Your mate saw you at a coffee shop and he just knew. And here's the thing is that I thought that this, and I should know to trust my friend Celine by now, but I really went into this and I'm like, oh no, because there's like a consent thing there, right? Like, are you going to decide, okay, you have a biological thing for me that tells you that I am connected to you in a way that I did not anticipate or ask for. I really enjoy what this book is doing where it's like, yes, but she didn't ask. So like, let's not make this her problem. Turns out that he had seen her at the coffee shop down the street from the bookstore she works at, which typically I get kind of like, ugh, if it's a reader or a book nerd is the main character of a book, because it's just so, it gets so trite. But this one isn't bad. So she's like, okay, but then how did you find out who I am and how did you get in touch with me? I've spent my last few years trying to make myself as unnoticeable as possible. He says, we have investigators, they get assigned to cases like these. And she's like, I don't trust that. I don't think that that's true. I don't know if I can trust anything he's saying. He's like, listen, your mate's name is Elias Morgan and he's very eager to meet you. He's a Kraken shifter, to be more specific, and all Krakens are very steadfast and loyal. They can live for up to 1,000 years, but only ever take on one mate. That makes them just the slightest bit territorial. But whatever he says is lost to the rushing sound of my ears, territorial. So this is where we find out that she is very nervous about territorial men because of her past. Territorial, possessive, jealous, controlling. My thoughts spiral, sucked into a deep well of memories and fears and long black nights. She says, I'm not interested. Please tell Mr. Morgan I don't have any interest in meeting or being mated to him. So then on her way out, she literally runs into the guy.
Release the Kraken!
He's got at least 6 inches on me and I have to crane my neck a little to look up at him, opening my mouth to offer a hasty apology. And then she sees the bluest eyes I've ever seen. Lenora, he whispers. She's like, you've got the wrong person. My name's Nora. He's like, call me Elias. And she's like, Mr. Morgan, I'm sorry, I'm not the woman you're looking for. And she's like, this is freaking me out. I don't like territorial men. I'm out of here. And so you can see him fighting his instincts. And he's like, okay, I'm sorry, forgive me. And she leaves. Chapter 2 is in his POV, Elias' POV. My mate has just fled from me. Lenora Perry, the treasure my heart has been searching for these past 300 years, my fate. And I'm like, oh no, this could go south so quickly. Get it together. What? Did I call him Liam? I did I? Did I call him Liam earlier? Shit, oh my God, I'm reading too many romance books right now. Although to be fair, in my defense, I'm reading a dark romance that is actually not bad. I've been looking for one that's not bad, and so far, I'm only 25%. This could go downhill. We have 75% to make me rage and want to throw things, but so far, not bad. And then this is a cute contemporary one that I'm reading, and it is a delight. I need you all to pre-order it. This one is about a librarian guy who's dealing with book banning and a con woman who strides into town. Okay, anyways, back to Elias. All these dudes' names just jumble in my brain. The hunter's urge in me flares to life. I need to go after her, track her, keep my eyes on her so I know she's safe. It's not just a polite suggestion either. It's an imperative command riding me with every breath I take. My mate is fleeing and I need to follow. Still, I hold myself back. Okay, good. Keep up the good work. So he asked the guy who was telling Nora, you know, the relations bureau guy, why did my mate just run terrified from this building? And the guy's name is Blair, and they're actually friends. And Blair is a dragon shifter. I think the next book is about his romance. So we do get a little bit of backstory about them in conversation, which is good. I felt that that was well done because dumping like info in your lap is really stupid, but doing it in a conversational way makes sense. So it turns out that Blair had who he assumed was his mate, and she died hundreds of years ago. Him and Elias have been together for hundreds of years as pals, not in a gay way, although one could hope. They've been together so long. You're not even gonna try it? And Blair's like, hey, you need to abide by our laws in your pursuit of her. She comes to you of her own free will, or you leave her alone. And he says, you need to tread carefully, Elias. I can't tell you why, but all of this could turn out into a huge problem for the Bureau if it's not handled properly. I'm not about to see our reputation damaged because one Kraken thought he could go off half-cocked in pursuit of a mate. And Elias is like, you make this sound like it could cause some sort of geopolitical incident. Who is she? And I love that we are like intertwining the Bureau with like actual US politics. I thought that was very smart. And it turns out that the guy that Nora has been on the run from is a politician, but he doesn't know that yet. All he knows about her is she gets coffee at Second Cup Cafe. Her light brown hair and hazel eyes might be lost in a crowd for anyone who wasn't looking closely enough. Light brown hair? That's not light brown hair. Who made this cover? That is not light brown hair. That's as dark as my hair. If I told my stylist, Julie, if you're watching this, is this light brown? She'd be like, don't shit on my hard work. You and your mate are a special case, Elias, and I'm more than happy to supervise and make sure you don't fuck it up. And he's like really dealing with these urges to run to her, to find her. How would she react to that? Poorly, I imagine, but there was a moment between us in the lobby. It was over before it really began. Warmth, curiosity, the widening of her eyes and the parting of her lips as she studied my face. And he's like, all right. I pushed down the instinct that's howling in me and silently vowed to let my treasure come to me in her own time, which is good. I think that this is a really interesting conversation about how if mates were a real thing, how we would have to, in today's society in 2024, talk about them. Like, how would we do right by each other? Where does consent come into play in today's world if monster mates were a thing? Chapter 3 is in Nora's POV. She's like, this is absurd. Some Kraken out there thinks I'm his mate. He had the Bureau track me down and I'm just supposed to be cool with it. I try to hold on to all those reasons for acting the way I did to justify the fact that I ran instead of hearing him out, that I protected myself over staying and finding out what he wanted to tell me. I think that she was completely justified, and I don't think she owes him literally anything, even a conversation, even a howdy do, even a wave, a little salute, little thumbs up. She doesn't owe him anything. She explains that she's in Seattle. This is set in Seattle. She just got to Seattle years ago, fresh off a Greyhound. What? A Greyhound? A Greyhound, a bus, which she came from DC, which that's a long bus ride. That's a long bus ride. You're talking crossing time zones. I mean, that's bonkers. But she had to because she was on the run from her ex. It took me months to find my balance again, a whole year to stop looking over my shoulder every time I left the house, wondering if that would be the day my ex Daniel caught up with me. And even now, 3 years out, I have to be honest enough to admit all of that baggage is still coloring the way I live my life. It's coloring the way I saw the Kraken too, which is really fair. I don't know Elias. Even though I can recognize my history makes me somewhat less than objective in this situation, it doesn't negate the fact that I have some good reasons to be wary. Yes, that is true, and I am glad that we are giving her that space. There's nothing on this planet that would tempt me back into a situation like the one I took such a gamble to leave, so why open myself up to the risk? It's a good point. This is an excellent point. And again, she doesn't even owe him a conversation to find out if this would be a problem. She does eventually give him one, but she doesn't actually owe him that. So she takes a different route trying to avoid the coffee shop where he saw her. Turns out he also took a different route trying to avoid that coffee shop, and they run right into each other. Are you following me? No. My office building is just up the street. I was trying to avoid the part of downtown I saw you before. I thought that might be best. She's like, what office building? He says, Morgan Blair Tower. Now, I guess Blair not only owns part of Morgan Blair, like Elias and Blair, and I don't really know what Morgan Blair does, now that I think of it, but they own Morgan Blair together, and also Blair works for the Monster Relations Bureau. And he's the CEO, of course, but Blair isn't really part of the company anymore. He more does Monster Relations Bureau stuff, which he's the director of. And she's like, great. So this dude is a literal CEO. Meanwhile, I've been trying to lay low and stay invisible. It's what I've been telling myself since I snuck out of another fancy, opulent, high-rise building with only a few $100s in my bank account. And she's like, okay, so the two of you did what exactly? Tracked me down, found out where I work, invaded my life, for what? Because you think you have some kind of claim over me? What gives you the right? Why do you think I'd be okay with that? How did you find me? He's like, I followed you from the coffee shop to your work. I went to Blair. I told him what I knew about you. The Bureau investigated. They saw your name tag. Blair called and asked for you once they knew that much, and the investigation went from there. She's like, I don't think that's an acceptable way to treat people. That's how you treat your supposed mate. And he's like, you are my mate whether you accept it or not. And she's like, well, I do not accept it. He calls her Lenora, and she's like, that's not my name anymore. I go by Nora. He says, I'm sorry. She says, just stop. Don't follow me. Stay away from me. Next chapter is in Elias's POV. I crossed a line. I don't know what made her react the way she did. It's not hard to guess the boundary I violated was a pretty damn big one. What happened to Nora to make her react the way she did? The memories of her fearful face, the sight of her retreating. What isn't Blair telling me? Who is she? He starts to put two and two together that there must be some sort of political issue involved if the Monster Relations Bureau, Paranormal Citizens Bureau is an issue. So he starts doing some Googling and he finds Nora Perry and that she used to go by Lenora, different last name, and she was dating a congressman. Her hair is different, dyed a lighter shade of blonde. Lighter shade of, this isn't even blonde. What do you mean a lighter shade of blonde? She's younger, noticeably thinner. She's wearing more makeup. She's standing next to Daniel Sorensen, one of the country's wealthiest industrialists and a 3-term congressman. It lists her as Nora Wheeler, Sorensen's girlfriend. A couple who, by all appearances, was in an elevated place in Washington, D.C. society. He comes from old money, and he's on a fast track of a political career, blah, blah, blah. He's recently been named to the House Committee, which oversees paranormal affairs. Now, I don't know about you, but I am super interested in how the US would react and would set up politics if it came out that monsters were real. I imagine not well for the right wing. I imagine they would not take that well. They already treat, marginalized folks as if they are inhuman. So I imagine that it would just be more of that from the right wing. So it's not just any congressman, but it is one who has sway over paranormal legislation that she is on the run from. And that's why Blair was like, hey, you need to tread carefully here. It's not Nora's fault. None of this is her fault. She didn't ask for this. She didn't want this. And if what I'm beginning to suspect about her is true, she's probably afraid of what all of this could mean for her. Chapter 5, Nora is out with her friends, Holly and Kenna. So Kenna, I believe, is the next main character in the follow-up book along with Blair. I think Kenna and Blair are the next couple. And something that I have a complaint about in a lot of romance books lately is when they are a series, they introduce the couple and then you are supposed to try to get people to buy your next book. And how they do that is they're trying to sell you look at this couple in this book, and if you like them, follow them to the next book. I think that this is one of the few books that does this well, where we're not constantly talking about how great those people are and wasting a lot of page time on them, whereas I just read Icebreaker and that was a huge problem Icebreaker had. I enjoy that she has friends and that they are very distinct and different. She explains to Holly and Kenna what happened. Kenna's like, okay, but what if he's not a shitty guy? What if he's a good guy? And I mean, he's a Kraken. You've got to be interested in what that would all be like. Wink, wink. Think we know what Kenna's talking about. And Kenna is the most experienced with dating paranormal, so this is sort of normal for her. But they're still validating her feelings. And she says, yeah, but the whole you're my mate thing, what am I supposed to do with that? I don't even know this guy and he's probably already looking for a lifetime commitment. And she's like, what if Daniel finds out? Elias seems connected. What if that's a problem? I feel like it will be super high profile and just asking for trouble if I end up dating Elias. And the whole mating thing, that probably would just make him into a possessive asshole. And Kenna's like, no, it's not like that. I've had friends who date monsters who are mated and they seem nice. So we're still in the process of humanity coming to terms and understanding what it means to have a mate, which totally makes sense for the, world that we've set up here. I think that a lot of care was taken in creating a scene that makes sense here. Belonging to someone stopped being a fantasy the day I met Daniel. In hindsight, I should have been able to tell from the first date. The love bombing, the gifts, the way he sweet talked me and painted a picture of things that would never really be true. By the time I realized it was a veneer for all the ugliness just underneath the surface, I was in so far over my head, stuck in his condo in DC. No car, no degree, not working because somehow he always managed to twist things and convince me it was better for me to stay home and support his political career, completely at his disposal. I like my life in Seattle. I'm more comfortable here than I've ever been anywhere, but that doesn't mean I haven't been stuck and stagnated and letting the baggage I've been carrying around keep me from truly moving forward. And she's like, okay, I'm glad we talked about this and I'll think about it. She runs into Blair again. He's like, I just wanted to check in, see how you were doing after our last conversation. And he explains a little bit about his work, working, trying to make paranormal relations with humans a viable thing. He explains that there was decades of work that went into the Paranormal Acts, which is the legislation around it. She's like, oh, so you seem pretty connected in the government. How much do you know about me? And he says, I know enough. She's like, so you know about Daniel? And he says, yes. She says, okay, so is Daniel aware of any of this? And Blair says, of course not. The Bureau operates independently of politics, though Congress has oversight into our budget and high-level operations. We don't report on any individual cases to lawmakers. It's been 3 years since I've seen or heard from Daniel, and while the thought of him finding me is still terrifying, the sheer weight of carrying the truth of what happened, like my own secret shame, isn't something I want to do anymore. I thought that was really good. I thought that was really powerful and an insight into what it feels like to be in an abusive relationship and leave. You always feel like some part of it is your fault and it's your shame rather than the shame of your abuser. Sometimes all I want is for someone to know, or everyone, maybe the entire world. If everyone knew what Daniel was like, the things he'd said and done while we were together, maybe it wouldn't feel like just my shame anymore. Again, I thought that was really powerful. There's another series that the first book is so bad. It's so bad. But the rest of the series, I was actually pretty surprised at how how accurate and how much care was taken in depicting what it's like to be in love with somebody who is abusing you and manipulating you to a degree that is like, it's shocking, which is the Plated Prisoner series. I wasn't expecting it to be like that. That series really should have been restructured and that first book should not exist on its own. But the rest of them, like, it's really surprising how you're watching this main character, Oren, figure out, oh my God, this man has abused me. Because you make a lot of excuses for why you're in this position and why these people do what they do. And then suddenly you're like, oh, fuck, oh my God, I am in trouble. And then you still feel like it's your fault and you need to just, no, if I just do this, this, and this, then it'll work out and it'll be fine. It was really surprisingly well done. So I'm happy to see this, although it's more on page in the Plated Prisoner series. This is more off page. We're learning about Daniel after the fact, though he will come on page later. I don't know how to feel about the mate thing. Does that come with a certain amount of obligation? Blair says, not in the slightest. If I know Elias, he's ready to treasure you for the rest of eternity, but not if that's not what you wanted. Chapter 6 is in Elias's POV. It's getting harder to deny with each passing day, like an itch directly in my prefrontal cortex, a damning temptation to throw my impulse control aside and act on what my nature commands. Find her, claim her, keep her. I'm almost certain I won't. Still, the instinct persists. I think this is really interesting. Like, this is sort of like kind of what I wish that we had like talked about in A Court of Mist and Fury, where it's like, yeah, Rhysand is Farah's mate, sure, but the possessiveness is passed off as fine because he's her mate in a way that it was not passed off as fine when Tamlin did it. And that's actually not an excuse. It's not. He's having a meeting that I don't really understand this piece, but he's having a meeting with two dudes who have to do with like the ocean freight part of the Morgan Blair business, and they're like concerned about continuing to do business with Morgan Blair because of paranormal relations and stuff. I don't really understand what was happening here or what the point of this was. They're talking about like contract renegotiation, and I'm like, what is the point of this? Attitudes about the paranormal folks are still in flux. Most are more than willing to accept us with open arms into the human world, but the detractors tend to be the emptiest, noisiest barrels. And this meeting gets interrupted because Nora comes to talk to him in his office. His secretary's like, hey, this person's on your urgent list. It's Nora Perry. And he's like, my mate's here. He's like, oh shit, Kraken instincts.
Release the Kraken.
It's as unconscious and unstoppable as the beating of my two hearts. Aw, he's like Gallifreyan. Oh wait, no, octopuses actually have two hearts, don't they? Wow. Every day on this channel, y'all see how actually incredibly stupid I am. It's like watching a brain fart in real time. That's pretty sad. And I'm gonna leave it in, you know, for accountability. Hey, it's 3 hearts. Octopuses have 3 hearts. I literally know nothing about anything. Anyway, I'm glad that we all could witness that. Whoop-de-doo. That is super embarrassing. He's like, I'm so glad you're here. She's like, listen, I wanted to see you and apologize, I guess, or just talk to you, you know, without like losing it and trying to run away. My friends talked to me and I feel like I might have acted kind of hastily when we first met. She's like, I met with Blair. He says, oh, what did you guys talk about? She says, you know, state secrets, Kraken mating habits, and tea. Oh, that's all? That's actually cute. That's funny. He's like, listen, I understand that this all might be a lot for you, why you're no doubt feeling overwhelmed by it. She says, oh, do you? He's like, listen, I want you to know that you're in control here. There's no pressure for you to do anything you don't want to do or make any decisions you're not comfortable making. Anything that happens between us is entirely up to you. She's like, all right, so how does that work? Practically, I mean, where do we go from here? He's like, I want to take you on a date. She's like, wouldn't a date mean a whole lot more to you than it means to me, though? I won't lie to you and pretend it's casual for me, nor will I ask for anything more than you're willing to give. We do this at your pace, whatever you're comfortable with. And she's like, okay, but what if I decide that I'm not comfortable with any of it? What happens then? Then I respect your wishes. This doesn't have to go anywhere if you don't want it to. Yes, thank you. Perfect. What would that mean for you? I don't really understand much about Krakens or mating. And inwardly, he's like, what would it mean? A black stain on my soul that would follow me for the rest of my life. I'm like, oh no, it got emo so fast. But then he says to himself, still, that's neither her fault nor her responsibility. I wouldn't be the first Kraken to be rejected by his mate. And though it's not something I'd ever want to live through, I could survive it. Yes. Thank you. All he tells her is, you let me worry about that. Yay! Oh man, this conversation could have gone south so quickly. So then he's like escorting her out of her office and he touches her lower back to like escort her. And he's like, oh no, but she's not flinching away, so maybe I'm good. She's like, you kind of have a thing about touching me, don't you? He says, should I not? She's like, I don't mind it. I'm glad that we're not just, looking for visual cues. I'm glad that we're like getting verbal confirmation that she's cool with it. Chapter 7, Nora. I'm going on a date with a Kraken. Good for you, bitch. There's not much written about him before Congress passed the Paranormal Acts, but tons of magazine and newspaper articles published after paint him as a brilliant businessman. Morgan Blair is staffed mainly by paranormals, and if the articles are anything to go by, Elias and Blair worked for years in the shadows of the company to build it what it is today, and it focuses on giving each of its employees a stake in its ownership. Oh my god. Not him trying to be an ethical billionaire. She's like, all right, it's just a date. There's no pressure. If I decide it's not for me, if I decide he's not for me, that's it. I love it. And she's like, it's actually kind of feeling good to be putting myself back out there. I'm just saying. So he picks her up. She's like, he kind of has a scar across his eye that makes him look like a pirate. His accent is a little bit British. And you know what? He's kind of hot. So, all right, let's do this.
Open the chest.
So they go on a date to the aquarium, which is quite cute. He's a Kraken, so fish are kind of his thing. And she's like, so you've donated a whole lot of money and initiatives to this aquarium. He says, does it bother you, my wealth? It doesn't, it's a lot to take in. He tells me about not only the fish and crustaceans in the tanks around us, but the conservation programs aimed at preserving the diverse marine life in the, how do you say this? Puget Sound? The Sound, and educating visitors about the community and the importance of the ecosystem. After my conversation with Holly and Kenna, I did some research into the way mating and mating bonds work. If the articles I read and videos I watched are any indication, it can be a little intense. There's not a lot out there on Krakens. They seem pretty rare in the whole paranormal landscape. What if your mate turns out to be a person who's rude to restaurant servers, or who hates all the TV shows and movies you love? What if they end up being a huge bore, or have completely different life goals or ideologies? My question was, what if they turn out to already be married? What do you do? Be like, oh no. And she's like, did you just bring me to the aquarium to get me comfortable with the idea of touching sea creature skin? Cute. He's like, no, oh my god, that is not what I meant at all. And so she's like cracking up, and she's like, I couldn't resist making fun of you. And I'm like, I'm glad that Daniel didn't make her lose her sense of humor. But they are touching sea creatures, and he's like, so what do you think? How does that skin feel beneath your fingertips, Nora? Sir, stop it. She's like, it's all right, I guess. And she's thinking in her head, is this what Elias would feel like if he shifted? Bitch, you're gonna find out. Did you think I'm gonna skip reading the tentacle parts? I'm not. The idea of going to bed with an octopus isn't exactly appealing, but a human man with some extra appendages that he could use to... Her thought trails off. They eat pizza. He explains the last time he had a relationship was 25 years ago. She's thinking, despite how well the evening has gone so far, despite how open and kind he's being, I feel some of the nerves creep back in the longer we sit here. This is what I didn't want to let happen. Every time a question comes up that might veer toward my past with Daniel or to the small scared life I've been leading for the past few years, I just can't speak, can't elaborate, can't give anything but half answers or non-answers that make me feel more and more self-conscious. Even after all the years you've lived and the places you've been, there hasn't been anyone else you considered your mate? And he says, no, there hasn't been, and there will never be. She's like, I don't know how to feel about all this. I need you to like explain the whole mates thing to me. Would it be so bad? He asked. Would it be so terrible to have a male completely devoted to you? One who wanted to take care of you and always ensure your safety, one who only wants to see your peace and happiness. What happens when caring for me turns into thinking you know best for me? I ask. Or what happens when you, get bored with me, realize I'm not what you wanted after all? And again, this is the kind of question I wanted Rhysand to be asked. What happens when caring for me turns into thinking that you know what's best for me? That is so important because we're talking about consent, right? And control is a form of abuse. So why is it hot when Rhysand does it, but not when Tamlin does it? And why not have those conversations on page? If this paranormal romance can do it, why not a 500 fucking page fantasy book? He says, you pose hypotheticals without even knowing me, little siren. This is part of why the book got a not high rating from me, is because the whole little siren thing is used like 50,000 times. She's like, little siren? He says, yes, little siren, you're the temptation designed just for me, the lure key to my blood, the song beckoning me toward the shore. She's like, into the rocks, you mean? I will gladly crash, Nora. I'd smash myself to bits for you. I'd let myself be drawn to you 1,000 times and 1,000 more, even if it meant my ruin. And then he gives her some hints that he knows about her past with Daniel. but she's not ready to talk about it. And he says, all right, I'm afraid it's time for us to leave. I promised Denise we wouldn't impose on the aquarium's hospitality for too long. Oh, you don't have a room set up there? I'm shocked. Or like, you know, a tank, nice cozy little back of the aquarium tank. Chapter 8, Elias, he asks if he can drive her home and she asks to see his driver's license and she sends a picture of it to her friends. And I'm like, yes, safety. I love it. He drives a Range Rover because of course he does. She tells him about the work that she does at the bookstore. He's dropping her off. He says, I had a wonderful time with you. I'd like to see you again, Nora. I think you already know that though. He's like, are you interested in seeing me again as well? She says, yes, but there are things in my life that make this complicated. And he's like, I do know some things about you. I know you were once involved with Daniel Sorensen. I know that you used to go by the name Nora Wheeler. I know more about Sorensen than I would have cared to, but there's a lot more information available online about him than there is about you. She explains, listen, things with Daniel, they ended badly. He tried to find me a few years ago. I left without telling him where I was going or giving him any way to contact me, but my friends back in DC did let me know that he didn't take it well. He never found me. I don't know if he ever pieced together that I'm in Seattle or if he is still looking for me. And he says, none of this was your fault. Nobody has the right to make you feel unsafe. Nobody has the right to push past the boundaries you've set. And I'm like, I appreciate that we're continuing on the theme of setting boundaries. And even though this is a guy that has like a biological urge to sort of like control her, he's fighting it and he's telling her and reaffirming over and over, you're in control of this situation. Your boundaries are important. Your choices are important. He walks her to her door and it's raining and then she decides to lean in and get a kiss. Chapter 9 is Nora's POV. Physical attraction aside, it's the last half hour that's made the difference between scurrying him to my apartment and being bold enough to lean into him. It's the soft reassurance, the patience, the way he stayed right with me and not pulled away for a moment, even when I was totally lost in my head. Elias tastes like the crisp salt of seawater blended with some dark, intoxicating spice I don't have a name for. Ooh, maybe star anise. He tastes like pho. Salty and spicy. God, I want pho. Oh my God, I'm starving. This kiss is a pirate taking the bounty he desires, a kraken hoarding a prized treasure close. All I can think of is the kraken from Pirates of the Caribbean swallowing Jack Sparrow whole. It's Elias who breaks the kiss, breathing heavily, and she leans in to kiss him again, cutting off his words, drawing a low growl from his chest. He doesn't pull away, tightens his hold, makes no secret of the fact that he's enjoying this as much as I am. One of his hands comes up to cut my breast over my dress, and I groan into his mouth.
Open the chest.
Whoa, titties already? He breaks off again. She's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. No need to apologize. I just wasn't sure if things were moving a little fast. She's like, yes, too fast. You're right. And I'm like, yes, I agree. Too fast. For me personally, you guys can do whatever you want. So he goes to leave and he's like, listen, I do hope you'll consider a second date with me, little siren, because if that's the only taste of you I ever get, I'm not sure I'll survive. Now, in a way, this is cute, but also I don't like the wording where it's like, I won't survive. I need you. No, I don't like it. Back up. Use different verbiage. Just be like, it would be a joy to taste you again. Now it sounds like he's actually eating her alive like he did with Jack Sparrow. Fuck! Chapter 10 is in Nora's POV. She's arranging a display of fantasy paperbacks at the bookstore. Good for her. She's thinking about, her date. She told her friends about it. She's thinking about her friends. And then outside, she sees a very familiar person. She's like, that can't be Daniel. Is that Daniel? It's not him. It can't be him. He's in DC. He doesn't know where I am or where I work. There's no way. Here's where the book started to get a little for me, because instead of calling her friends or calling her coworkers, and it makes sense not to call the police, it says, I'm aware of the different set of rules for the wealthy, important people dealing with law enforcement. And also Daniel mentions this like he hasn't done anything illegal technically. She says, Holly or Kenna? No, neither of them should be involved in this. I don't see why not. You were willing to text them a picture of your date's driver's license, but you're not willing to call them when you need like a body to come stand with you. Of course, she calls Elias, and I'm like, oh, I just don't like the reasoning here. Like, sure, if she had called Holly and Kenna and they didn't answer, all right, but just to straight up be like, no, they shouldn't be involved. But you involved them with Elias. What the hell? She's like, it's probably nothing, but I thought I saw Daniel. And he's like, all right, I'm going to have my head of security, Travis, come pick you up. And this felt very like 50 Shades of Grey. I don't like that, where you have to call the rich guy to come help you because this really awful guy is bothering you. So he even asked her, why did you call me? Why did I call him? Because I knew I could count on you to help me. yeah, but you could count on lots of people to help you. I don't understand. He's like, all right, just lock the door until Travis gets there. Chapter 11 is in Elias' POV. The moment my front door closes behind me, I sense my mate is nearby. Nora is here in my home, safe and protected, and it's enough to make my hearts feel like they are cracked wide open in my chest. He did some research and did confirm that Daniel is in Seattle. The visit was unannounced, held under the guise of fact-finding for the brand new Congressional Paranormal Oversight Committee. Blair tried to call me right after, but I'd been in meetings with one of Morgan Blair's Canadian partners and missed the call. Nora's wrapped up with the Bureau because of me, and if that's how he found her, I'm gonna feel really bad. So he, gets home, she sees him, they embrace. It's cute. I just don't like the setup of how we got here very much. He was actually in Canada and came straight back to Seattle. He was in Montreal. So they start making out. He's like, it's late, you should get rest. And she's like, will you sleep in my bed with me? And I'm like, whoa, this is moving so quickly. Chapter 12. There's a Kraken in my bed. Well, technically it's his bed, but the point stands. Did I really ask him to stay last night? Did he really accept? Of course he accepted. You're his mate. Yeah, duh. He came home for me. He helped me out last night without a single moment of hesitation. I called and he came. Simple as that. When's the last time I had someone in my life who would drop everything for me? Holly and Kenna are good friends, but I'd never imagine imposing on them in that way. And she's not close with her mom. She doesn't know her dad. Maybe that's why what Daniel had seen in me. Someone desperate to be cared for, to have someone I could rely on, to feel like I wasn't alone. That need had turned out to be the thing he twisted and exploited for his own game. What if I'm falling into the same trap now? Now, that I think is great. I think that is so self-aware. That makes total sense. That is, in fact, what abusers do. I've talked a little bit about what happened to me when I was 17, which I really don't want to get into too much here. There was an older guy who, I don't even know how to explain this. Basically, stuff happened and he manipulated me, and he was trying to, his ultimate goal was for me to move into, he owned different properties and he wanted me to move onto one of his properties. He also had a wife who did not work. And now I realize that the reason she did not work is because he didn't want her to. So I was probably setting up to be like another one of those. And this is what men like this do, men like Daniel, men like the guy who did that to me. But what they do, they see somebody who has needs, they fill those needs for their own gain, and then they put you in a position where you are basically property. Like, I would be living on his property, but I would just be an extension of that property. Like, I would just be a piece of that house. That's what the goal was. And it's really self-aware to, like, I definitely would not have seen that when I was 17. Like, I didn't think of it that way. I wasn't really all there at the time. So now seeing it, looking back and having it like spelled out on page like that is really powerful, because that's what abusers do. That's what predators do. They are looking for a very particular person, a person who's vulnerable, a person who has needs, and they fill those needs for their own gain. So for her to be like, what if I'm falling into the same trap now, is really self-aware. And she says, I can't believe that worry is true. This feels different. And I'm like, oh, see, this is where you lost me. I feel like we could have done a little bit more exploration. I would have gone the route of like, okay, I am someone who has fallen for this trap before. So let me kind of test the waters to see if test the waters with the Kraken. Test the waters to see if he responds the same way that Daniel would have. So anyway, they're making out. He kisses me. It's a claiming that leaves me breathless and panting. I don't like calling it a claiming because that feels too possessive. I'm ravenous, clinging to him and pulling myself closer, not nearly close enough. He responds in kind, deepening the kiss and pressing the length of his body on mine. He's heavy, so deliciously solid as he dips me into the mattress, kissing me with a hunger that makes my toes curl. So they're like about to get it on, and she asks, wouldn't you rather be shifted for this? And he's like, would you like me to be shifted for this? And she's thinking, would I? I'd be a filthy, filthy liar if I denied that I'd skimmed some Kraken porn videos in the days since our first date. On the one hand, I'm laughing. On the other hand, oh my God, this didn't even fucking occur to me. If monsters come out as real, then monster porn happens. Like, as soon as the internet happened, porn happened, right? If monsters were to reveal themselves to be real, porn's happening with them in it. Absolutely. And I hadn't even thought about that. Sorry, I had to take a break and actually go eat one of my factory meals for lunch. I was so freaking hungry. Hi, sorry, I left for a minute here to go eat, and I didn't bridge between filming very well. So basically, Nora was like, would you rather be shifted? He's like, I'm not gonna shift while we're intimate. And she's like, yeah, I think that's for the best. I'm not really, like, I'm not there yet. I don't know if I'm down with the tentacles. Okay. Anyway, she says that she's not ready for all that. So I didn't really like the sex scenes in this, which sucks. I'm just really, really picky. He does ask for consent, which I appreciate, but he says, like, the problem with sex scenes is that I feel like I read the same one in every single book, and all of them typically have verbiage that I just find kind of, like, not to my taste. So he says things like, so responsive, which is just why do they all say that? He asks, can I touch you? She nods. He says, words, little siren. I'd like to hear the words. So asking for, I need your words is another thing. But I just really don't like the little siren nickname. I just think it's like majorly cringy. I just realized I hadn't had my mic plugged in. Sorry about that. He calls her a greedy girl. Like, it's just a lot of the same language that I've heard in every single sex scene ever. So wet for me. You love this, don't you, Nora? She finishes. She says she's boneless. Like, every single sex scene is the same thing. So after she arrives, she goes and touches him, not on the his particular tentacle, but it says, I traced my fingers under his waistband, reveling in the feeling of his hot skin and the firm muscles of his ass and hips. All of that power, all of that strength just waiting to be unleashed. I'm surprised that it doesn't say a muscle ticks in his jaw. Only that's not all I feel. There, just at the side of his hip, his skin has changed. It's deepened to a dark blue gray. It has different texture, bumps. It's kind of slippery, kraken skin.
Release the Kraken!
He jerks away. He says, I'm sorry. And in the next chapter, he talks in his POV about how he's never shifted unconsciously like that before. And he thinks about the fact that he would love for Nora to see every part of him. And, he's like, oh, it would make me really sad if she would find my, like, full form disgusting. Because he can, like, shift to different degrees. So, like, he is technically a whole-ass Kraken. Like, swallowed Jack Sparrow type whole-ass Kraken. But whole-ass Kraken. Damn it. But he can shift different parts of himself, so he can be like in the cover half man half kraken, or he can be like a whole dude. So he's like, I would really like for her to find me attractive in every form, which is also a thing that like makes sense to dive into, like the psyche of, oh, typically humans are attracted to humans, typically. Well, what if she finds me gross? That kind of thing, which is honestly pretty par of the course for like monster romance. But then back to the whole mates thing, he's like, my instincts are screaming like, oh, I'm so glad, my mate's here. She's in my house. She's being fed. She's being cared for. The notion is antiquated, and my rational brain can differentiate between modern expectations and my own need to care for Nora, but that doesn't mean I'm not still pleased as hell to have her here and spoil her a little. He tells her that Daniel is in Seattle, and so she's trying to deal with this. They decide to go out on another day date. They go to Whidbey Island. Is that a real place? I would ask Alexa, but I had to unplug her. They go hiking. He tells her more about himself, that he was born in the 1700s, and he explains like the age difference for him is basically nothing. I still feel 35, maybe 40, despite all the years I lived, and she's 27. So it's trying to explain the age gap thing, and honestly, I'm just not even going to think too much about it in this book. It's a monster romance. I'm just going to let it go. I have different standards for what different books are doing and trying to do, and monster romance is one of those where I'm a little more lax. But she does say, 40, huh? That still makes you kind of a creep. And so she asks him about the scar on his eye, and he's like, well, I used to sail the seas and get into fights. And she's like, I fucking knew it. He's a pirate. But she says, was it like Pirates of the Caribbean? And I'm like, no, don't say the name of the series. It's fine when I do it in the review, but don't actually say it in the text. It's cringe. It was a lot less Hollywood and a lot more long, tedious days at sea and the endless work of keeping a ship and crew running smoothly and not tempted to mutiny. Sir, don't forget about the scurvy. Things came to a rather abrupt end after Blair met a woman. He was ready to leave the ship. The crew set off with her on a new adventure, and then she was killed. It was both of our faults. He thought she was his mate. That was the end of his pirating. They go back to his house, and he's like, listen, if you want to stay here at my house and avoid Daniel Sorensen, that's fine. She's like, I should go back to my place if there's no reason to think Daniel's in town for anything other than government business. I'm probably overreacting. And she's like, we've also been only on 2 dates. I can't just move into your house. And he thinks to himself, why can't you? But also thinks like, no, she's right. I'm being unreasonable, which is good. Oh, did you sneeze over there? You cute little bitch. Oh, my cat sneezed and it was adorable. Oh, you're in my spot on the bed. That's nice. Get your hair all over there. It'll get my eyes later. I'll be sneezing, and where will you be? Not getting me tissues, that's for sure. This relationship is one-sided. She tells Elias he can come up for a few minutes, but when they get up to her apartment, there's a note from Daniel on her door. And in the next chapter, she explains from her POV that in the beginning, of their relationship, he used to leave her love notes, compliments, endearments, cards. But then as time went on, they got more to be like instructions, or we need to discuss something. I disappointed him. You need to wear a particular piece of jewelry or clothing, or cutting commentary about how I needed to impress him. And she started dreading getting those notes. So now getting one again is, instilling a lot of fear in her. I'm sorry I missed you, Nora. I hope you're doing well. Innocent, innocuous, threatening as hell. He knows where I am. He left a note on my fucking door. So they check the house. There's nobody there. If you don't feel comfortable coming back to my house, can I just pay for you to stay at a hotel? Or I have a condo downtown, just a couple blocks away from my office if you prefer to stay there. So instead, she just opts to go back to Elias's place. And I was like, no, don't give up your autonomy and freedom and your ability to take care of yourself just because one thing happened. Like anytime anything happens, she immediately just falls back to Elias. She explains to Elias, well, he used to leave me notes all the time. Everything changed after I dropped out of college and I moved to DC with him. Don't forget to have dinner ready tonight, Nora. Don't forget to smile at the press event this afternoon. Remember how poorly the last gala went? Try to do better tonight. It's important for my next election. The morning of the day I left, there was a note taped to the mirror reminding me that we had dinner with his parents and what exact dress he wanted me to wear. But his parents thought that she was trash. She didn't want to get dressed up and go. She told Daniel when he got home. I was just sitting on the couch in my sweats, no makeup, ready to make my damn point about not going for once, tell him I choose not to participate when I didn't want to, and he didn't hit me, but I thought he was going to. He gave me everything, he said, and I couldn't suck it up for a few hours. When I still didn't do what he wanted, he got me by the shoulders and he shook me, not hard enough to do any damage, but it was enough, so it was still physical abuse. I forgot about that part. I guess it startled him too because he went to dinner with his parents without me. Even before it happened, I'd been thinking about leaving, but all of it was my breaking point, I guess. She packed up her stuff, she got on a bus, and she went to Seattle. And then they're having sex again. And in Nora's POV, she's thinking like, Daniel doesn't get to take this from me too. He already stole my sense of security today. So they get in the biggest damn shower she's ever seen. He also has a whole ass small swimming pool in his bedroom because, he's a Kraken. So she asks him, are you going to shift? And he says, oh no, this is the part where I have to read these things out loud. You're going to against my mouth first, and then maybe I'll give you my tentacles if you behave for me. Sir. So after she arrives, where Elias was kneeling on the shower floor, his legs have disappeared. In their place, a mass of curling, expanding tentacles in a deep blue-gray. Oh no, here they come. Literally. More than I can count, and as I watch, they expand and contract, moving closer until one brushes against my ankle. Ah, I got the shivers. Ugh, I don't know if I can take this. It's softer and warmer than I thought it would be. Is it? I don't think so. I just don't think I could do this. If this were, I don't think I could be a Kraken's mate. I'm sorry, I don't think I'm cut out for this. So he's touching her with his tentacles. Of course, suction's going on as you do. And she asks him mid all this, is this your full shift? And he says, no, I won't shift fully while we're intimate. Even I can understand why having a full sea monster in your bed may not be all that sexy. Yeah, I just cleaned my house recently. I wouldn't even know where to begin after that. I'll show you sometime if you'd like to see, he says. I'm like, oh, I've actually seen Pirates of the Caribbean too. I know what you look like. It works best if I'm in the ocean. Maybe I'll put you in a little rowboat and send you out into the deep. Maybe I'll be there waiting in those depths to strike and carry you off to a sea cave where I can ravish you completely. It seems you've had some time to think about this. And she's like, the image that puts in my mind shouldn't be so fucking hot. I mean, to each their own. You've been through a lot, Nora. You're allowed to have this one thing. I'll allow it. His front tentacles part and my hand brushes over another that's different from the rest. Ooh, it's differently different. Stiffer and shorter with a blunted head and ridges up and down its length. And that is his mating tentacle. Sorry, I tried. In my hands, his mating tentacle is slippery, not just from the water or the smoothness from his skin, but seems to be leaking its own lubrication directly from the tip, thick and viscous and weeping over my hand. I tell you what, I can handle the tentacles mostly. I'm just laughing, but the word weeping is one of my icks. I don't like when we say the word weeping in reference to downstairs regions. I would rather die. So she eats some calamari. I'm trying so hard not to get demonetized. She's eating calamari while the tentacles are plundering the treasure.
Open the chest.
Oh my gosh. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? I hope so. We're working against the YouTubes here. When she moans, the sound echoes all the way down to the internal sacs where I'll one day produce eggs for my mate. He produces eggs. And see, I'm more interested in learning about his eggs than his mating tentacle. I don't know about you, but this is I'm so curious as to how these authors like make these things work. This is just like when I my questions about Twilight and how Edward's, you know, equipment works when he has no blood. I had many questions. I unfurl my tentacle slightly inside her, just enough to get one of my suckers against that spot on the front wall of her. Still gripping her hair tightly, I into her mouth. Okay. She says, I think you've ruined me for anyone who doesn't have tentacles. You know what? I really should have used my bingo board because there's always like a you've ruined me for other men in these books. But I just want to point out that it really is over for human men if the monsters ever really do come to life, because there will be not a single man on earth who could do what he just did. We'll move on. I'll let you sit with that for a moment. He thinks, did we go too far tonight? It feels like we've lived a lifetime in a day. How was it only this morning I tasted her for the first time? And only this afternoon we walked in the sunshine by the water. That's my question too, because we are speed running through this. I really wish that we would have waited to do all this. Like, I don't mind like the tentacle, it's the eating of the calamari. It's just I feel like we're rushing things. And now she's like, I can't stop thinking about what happened earlier at my apartment. I don't know what if I want to go to the police. What would I even say to them? My ex left a note for me. I can't prove anything. It's not trespassing. What would reporting do other than piss him off? And he's like, well, it would leave a paper trail, which is probably a good idea, but that would be in the case that he escalates. And these are things that, people who really are dealing with abusive partners are thinking about. So I think that was well done. And they're still trying to figure out how Sorensen even found her. So in Nora's POV, she's like, this is going pretty fast. And he's like, yeah, this is happening much faster and more intensely than I had planned. I wanted to court you, woo you, make you believe I was worthy of you. And he's like, I just don't know if things should have gone as far as they went last night. And she's like, okay, so do we dial it back on the physical stuff? He's like, well, I'd like to have us get, time to get to know each other and let things develop at what other people consider a more normal pace. Because like 2 sex scenes in the first 50% is a lot in my opinion for a book that isn't all that long. It's only like 250 pages. It's pretty short, which is good for a romance book. It's just that I prefer something a little slower. Elias goes and talks to Blair, who said that he had to meet with David Sorensen, and now David Sorensen is up in Vancouver. They're meeting with Canadian delegation to discuss the visa process for paranormals. There's rumblings about a reevaluation of the paranormal acts, or at least parts of them, and the visas are one of the first topics. And I'm like, ooh, I'm actually interested in the politics of this. I wish we were gonna dive in more. And they're like, we do need to figure out where he got Nora's information. She meets with her friends and they're like talking about how, oh my gosh, you guys did fool around, and she's updating them on David Sorensen. I really like the friends in this. Something that I feel like Icebreaker, which was like almost 500 pages, didn't really do is like really give its main character Anastasia real time with her friend Lola. So I was happy that like we actually got on page time between Nora and her friends, and it didn't feel like we were just spending time with them so that we could set up for the next book. It actually felt like we were spending time with them for Nora's sake, which is great. She talks about how she's like, well, I'm thinking about going back to school, which is something I couldn't do when I was with David. And I'm just feeling like, I don't want to sit here my whole life. I want to do things. We start to get a little repetitive where she's like, I don't regret going to the police. The police treat rich people different. And I'm like, yes, I know. All right, let's move on. We even get a little bit of queer rep where the housekeeper for Elias is actually a queer woman in a relationship, in a long-term 30-year relationship with another woman, which I thought was great. She goes into Elias's bedroom and she sees an entire pool. Faster than I can react, a tentacle snaps up and bands around my waist, tugging me toward the water. Oh no. And he's in a full shift, so he has fully released the Kraken. The monster isn't exactly separate from me, but he's got his own mind and his own concerns. He's protective of our mate too, but also tuned into other things. In the open ocean he hunts, stalking prey through the deep. The feeling of that freedom is incomparable. But when he feels Nora's gentle fingers stroking, he's just as greedy for her as I am. Ugh. I don't like the word greedy in sex scenes. And they're already having sex again, despite them saying that they were gonna take it slower. So she's like bound up in his tentacles, which I definitely saw coming. Speaking of coming, you can guess what's happening. A tentacle delving deeper into her, a sucker wrapped around her. His mating, and then it switches to her POV. His mating tentacle is thick and hard, pulsing against my damp It's not the only thing that wants in. I've entirely lost track of the number of appendages my Kraken has. Me too. I have also lost track of that. Inside of me, the tentacle he's impaled me on shifts and twists, growing thicker somehow, like it's curling in and doubling over on itself. Ha! Ha! I'm cringing a little bit. Good for you, but never me. The doubling over is really what doubled me over there. He's bottomed out, sunk to the hilt in me. See, sink to the hilt is another one. Like every sex scene says the same exact thing. Another one that is constantly being said, look at you taking me so well. Like, stop, I get it. You guys all say the same thing. Anyway, they both arrive, good for them. They're floating in his Kraken sex pool. She's like, oh shit, we have now had sex and we didn't talk about birth control. I'm already on the pill, should be fine. And he's like, oh, I can't get you pregnant. Krakens go into a heat when we're ready to mate with our partners. There's a frenzy of sorts driven by the biological need to produce. And she's like, and then you'd get me pregnant? Or he's like, there are precautions we would take to make sure that doesn't happen if that's something you don't want, which is good. I'm glad they're talking about the fact that she does have a choice and options. And he's like, there's no pressure for you to ever take an egg from me. And she's like, sorry, an egg? Isn't that what I do? Isn't that what I contribute to this? When I'm in heat, I'll create eggs I can pass to you. Sex during heat, sex meant for breeding is a bit different, more intense. I'll secrete a chemical that would make it possible for you to accept an egg and carry it to term. See, other people might not appreciate that, but personally, as a person who had a lot of questions about Edward when I read Twilight a long time ago, I appreciate the breakdown of how this works. I don't know about y'all, but I'm a deeply curious person and I want to know. I want to know the biology. I want to know the anatomy. She's like, is kids something that you're interested in someday? And he says yes. And she's like, I think I might too. So good for them. I'm glad that they talked about it beforehand. Unlike an icebreaker. And he's like, also, I'm immune to human STDs. I'm telling you once again that if the Krakens ever, show themselves to be real, the Kraken shifters, it is over for human men. She's like, okay, so we're like together. Does this make you my boyfriend? He's like, I'll be whatever you want me to be. And she's like, also, don't you live to be like 1,000 years old? How's that gonna work? And he basically explains that it's like a Benjamin Button type deal. No, it's not. It's not Benjamin. They're like meeting in the middle is what he said. So it was like Benjamin Button in that capacity. But basically like she would live a little bit longer now and he would live a little bit shorter of a life. So it's like he had this much, now it's shortened down to this, and she had this much and it's like raised up to this. So they're like getting this chunk of time together. That makes sense? They're starting to fall in love with each other. They're basically playing house. They're worked out. Like there's no issues between them. So the third act problem that's going to pop up is obviously it's Daniel. So I'm just going to wrap this up. Daniel shows up. He has a gun. He shows up at her apartment. He takes her and he's like, I'm taking you back to DC. You're coming back to DC with me. How dare you leave me? You're a filthy monster fucker. And of course, like she tries to get in contact with Elias. He can tell that she's in danger. And then his friend who's a vampire who came up for like a scene, and Blair, who is a dragon shifter again, all basically like, jump Daniel and scare him off. And the issue I took with this is the same thing that I took with when she originally called Elias, when she realized that Daniel was in Seattle. And I'm like, why couldn't she have had like more, like she could have saved herself. It turned out that Daniel had found out where she was because somebody at the Bureau of Paranormal Affairs had reported it to Daniel, which like wasn't, I mean, wow, I'm shocked. And Daniel, before he like, almost tried to kill her and stuff, was like, is he coming for you, Mouse? And I'm like, Mouse? When did Haunting Adeline appear? And he kept calling her Mouse. And I'm like, where did this come from? Like, I wish that we would have sowed those seeds beforehand. Anyway, they all scare Daniel, especially Blair, who like shifts into his dragon form to scare the shit out of Daniel. He like roars at him, rawr. Puny human man can't take us monster men with our monster, roars. And of course, Elias sweeps, literally, it says he sweeps Nora into his arms and runs off into the night. So then she has to talk to the police about Daniel, but apparently he's already been on law enforcement radar for years for fraud anyway, and like insider trading, and who knows how much more shady shit. So I just kind of wish that we had done a little bit more with Daniel. But it does say that Elias tells her that the investigators gave him some info on trauma counseling and that he wants her to go, but I wish that they would have told her that, and she took the initiative to say, I'd like to go talk to a trauma counselor. She does say, I don't think I'm ready to move in with you, but my lease is up in a couple of months, and after that, maybe I can go month to month. In the meantime, I can spend more time here, or you can stay over at my place with me. They tell each other that they love each other, and in the epilogue, it says, I'm adrift at sea being hunted by a kraken. I think you can probably guess that they're playing out that fantasy. This whole thing is absurd and undeniably hot. Their safe word is chai because she used to work at a coffee shop, which is super cute. Sorensen is in prison, and the end of it says, my mate, my treasure, my Nora, truly mine at last. Thank you for reading Nora's Kraken, the end. So all in all, I give this like a 3.25. I think as far as monster romance goes, it's probably one of the best that I've ever read. I don't love it, but I liked it. I thought that the conversations around consent as far as like mates go, and the conversation about what it looks like and feels like to be emotionally and verbally abused make a lot of were well done. I just wish that Nora had, she had taken so much like of her agency back by choosing to go all the way to Seattle and start a new life for herself. I just wish that she hadn't met Elias and decided, you know what? He can make choices for me. I can rely on him to do everything for me. And she was like, maybe I'm putting myself in a position where I did just like Daniel. And she's like, no, never mind. And like, but you might be. You just met, so you could be. So I wish that we had done a little bit more there as far as those conversations. But like at least we had them at all. So 3.25. I do think that the sex scenes were too much, too soon, and too repetitive. Not just repetitive within the book, but repetitive of things that I've seen before in literally every smut scene that I have read. If you took out the tentacles, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between like the icebreaker sex scenes and Nora's Kraken. Like everything just sounds exactly the same. I'm dying for like sex scenes that don't make me cringe and don't sound like every other sex scene that I've read. Anyway, that was Nora's Kraken. Let me know your favorite monster romance. And in the comments below, leave your favorite sea creature. I think we can all guess what Nora's is. Thanks so much for watching. Comments and questions down below, thoughts and opinions, and I will see you next time. Bye! And before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bells patrons, and those are Alexander, Ashley H, Astra, Astrid, Brittany Bobitney, Call Me Kodiak, Cami, Choco's Trash for Japanese Mysteries and Thrillers, Chris the Horror Therapist, DJ Rocktopus, EK Casey, Ellie, Emerald Dodge, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric, GalaxyBot, Jess, John E, Julie D, K, Kaleno K, Casey McKenzie, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lady Chips, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Lily B, Max B, Minby, Mommy Zami, Alice, Panoramic Demon, Peggy Lou, specifically Peggy Lou, I'm a creep who. Peggy, Rain, Reese, SJ, Sadwich Bree, Samar, Scarlet, Shiny, SMK, Spoopy, Steph B, 2 Orbit, Urchin Audrey, White Raven 13, Zorvictia, Chai Guy, and Bibuli Baby Dragon. I think I did it right this time. Thank you all so much for being here. And thank you for being a friend. And before I go, I also have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons. Those are Alejandra. Alicia is reading that Ethan book and screaming, oh my god, Alicia, I know. It's so good. I know. Althea, Amanda D, Andy, Angelica, Artie the Ninth, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck, Blake Lemon Pants, Blythe Lavender, Bookish Brainrot, Bookish by Jenna, Bree, Kate, Caitlin, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Carly, Casper, Kate W, Catherine, Kathy, CJ, Claire Online, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic, Darius, Danielle, Darren, Desiree Michelle, Dilf Enthusiast, Dorian, Dorothea, Drive-By Thinker, E.T. Cosgrove, Ebby, Emily A, Emma Kingsbane, hell yeah, I know that's a Furyborn reference now and I'm so happy. Aaron, Ezra Moon, Fiona, Francis, Gadarn, Hannah C, Harpy Kuro, Ilianaka, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jen Michelle, Genderqueer, Jenny G, Justice Sue, Jill, Jojo Bookish, Juicy Wizard, that's a good one, Kat H, Catherine, Katie, Kaylee, Kayala, Kendra, Kitten, KMTB, Laughing Cat Dog, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Library of Scars, Jesus, Lindsay M, Lisa B, Lisa L, LP, Lou Siri, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Maddie, Madison, Man Eating Plant, Marcella, Marquita, Megan, Malara, Mentally Unwell, May, Molly, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nemeska, Nyan Binary, Paige P, Penelope, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Pandemonium, Queen Cereal, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca, Rebecca R, Ronnie, Rosie Thorns, Rowan, Secoria, Saintbringer, Sakialume, Samantha O, Sammy, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Sarah Z, Shamed, Shannon, Sean, Sisette, Sophie, Talia, Tiana, Trashcan Teddy, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend.